All right, friends, welcome back. Strong Life Podcast with I think, triple repeat guest, my bro, Rusty Whitt. And Rusty is a new strength coach at Tulane. Last time we chatted, he was at Troy, and we were talking about developing all the transfers. We were talking about basic strength training. We were talking about hunting, eating, training in your 50s. You were even planning the knee surgery or the knee replacement. So here we are, new college. And Rusty, maybe because I know now more football strength coaches, I've never seen so much movement. I saw once one coach transferred to one college. I never seen so much in collegiate as well as NFL movement. Have you ever seen so much movement?
No, and I think a lot of it is related to the transfer portal and the NIL coaches navigating all of this, the newness, and you don't really develop anymore comparative to how it used to be. So coaches can show they can recruit and fundraise, and in 2 years they're gone, and staffs are getting bigger. I have four basically full-time assistants now, and so those assistants are bouncing around, and youth will always prevail. So young guys are stepping up and moving on, and it's just a very fluid time right now.
But even like what's interesting is, you mentioned youth. Are you 50? How old are you? 50?
52.
52. Sometimes I
Yeah.
say to myself, hey, I'm 48. I don't think a college is going to want to hire me again. Maybe a wrestling program would, but we saw Tommy Moffitt get hired after being out for 2 years.
Oh
And
yeah.
Coach Moffitt he's late 50s. Is he, so it's
And
interesting.
I'm very happy for Tommy too. He
Yes.
deserved that job, and he's going to do. They're going to have a huge impact at Texas A&M. So very happy for him.
Right. I wonder, do you feel like they're looking at, I think maybe not long ago, they looked at older guys as we don't want the older guy. Now they look at the wisdom that the older, more experienced coaches have, and they're putting them in. I'm not sure, is Coach Moffitt like a director who oversees all strength and conditioning, or is he the head strength and
I,
conditioning
I,
coach?
I think he's the director,
Yeah.
and I think what's allowing this to happen is the size of the staffs, and the salaries are getting a lot better. So a head coach might want that young energy for recruiting, but they also want somebody who's grounded, who's won national championships like Coach Moffitt. So they can afford to have kind of a good mix. So the NFL does that, So you got Buddy Morris at
Arizona.
the Arizona Cardinals, but he's the director of return to play. So
Right.
he deals with athletes who've coming from severe injuries. You got Evan Marcus, who's been coaching the NFL over 20 years as a director, and then they got younger guys underneath them. So I think coaches, and then another thing is you got younger head coaches
Yes.
who, like our head coach, John Summerall, I believe is 41 now. And he might, like me, because I've been coaching in college longer, and I can help with the development piece, because he does believe in developing the young athlete, and he does believe in getting a core base of recruits out of high school, not just transfers. So, and then my staff, they're all in their 20s, so
Wow.
he has that youthful influx. So it's a good dynamic. I like it.
Yeah. I like, even at my private facility at the underground, my three coaches are all in their 20s. And you know why I like it is because sometimes I feel like I get too conservative. I overthink, so I don't let somebody go as heavy, which you forget what it's like to be a teenager and the ability to do a rep that doesn't look beautiful. But then
Mhm.
I always say we get quote unquote too smart. You're just like, you overthink it. So I like the younger guys. They bring the intensity And maybe, it's still safe, but they bring that push that I believe is needed because, I did a podcast last week with Mike Jolly. He created the Iron Neck. And so Mike Jolly played football at UCLA 78 to 82. And we had a conversation that, training is sometimes so conservative. They're not strengthening, the neck, the back. They're afraid to lift heavy. And then they go into these violent sports. So I think you and we probably had that conversation at Summer Strong, something like talking about that stuff. So,
Yeah.
how's been your first? Are you at Tulane for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? How long?
We are finishing up week 6 of our off season tomorrow. So it's been going by pretty fast.
It is fast.
We have I haven't done 1 rep max testing here. I really have gravitated away from it. But we do, like, for instance, on Monday we did, I call them perfect singles on power clean rather than 1 rep maxing. So perfect singles, and we had some nice numbers, and and then it stretches into a +1 set. Let me take another set in. So that takes about 35 minutes. Then the bench press, we did a pause 1 and then a +1. So they pause one with like basically like a powerlifting legal press, and then they do a touch and go. I take that number and add 20, and that's their new bench max. So you have to be careful not to get too radical with 1 rep maxing. I believe in the college setting right now, because a lot of the players that you might get from different places, as we have talked in the past about transfers, just aren't ready for a 1 rep max. So I inherited kind of a hodgepodge of transfers and some guys who've been here for a while, and so we pushed. I'm not going to say conservative, but we pushed the envelope, but in the most intelligent way possible. We're going to do basically the same thing tomorrow with squats, a pause 1 and then 1 down and up. So it's been good. The level of self-confidence that players get when they know they're getting stronger, it's why I do what I do and the way I do it. I mean, I'm very happy with seeing how guys react. We had week 4, we were doing 6s on their close grip bench press. And then today we were doing, week 6 doing triples. And I'm reading off the improvements. One kid went from 245 to 300 pounds.
Oh.
And I'm like, why the big discrepancy? And he goes, I just felt more comfortable with my setup. I've had the honor of having Bill Gillespie visit me at Troy twice and just talk about bench press setup. And he's coming again sometime soon. And to bring a man in who's had over 1,000 pounds and is over his chest, these guys listen. It's hard to get these young men. It's hard to get their attention.
Yes.
And when you bring in a guy like Bill, and he shows a video on our screen of him doing 1,078 pounds, it gets their attention. So he's like, this is how you set up. Put your feet here, put your butt here, put your shoulder blades here, put your head here, grab the bar this way. And I've taken what I've learned from him and from various other people throughout my life, but the guy's setup was better and his breathing technique was better, and he got 300 for 3 today, and he got up and just went nuts. He's like, that's my best bench press max ever for 3 at a close grip. And so to see that kind of energy and excitement and confidence it's a good day.
Confidence is one of the most important transfers of training that many coaches forget to talk about because they're so looking at the speed, the miles per hour. Well, I want to build confident athletes, and that comes through preparation. What's been, because you came in after kids had the winter break. So how many, when we podcasted last time, you mentioned Troy had about 50 transfers. So how many do you think you have, or do you have numbers wise transfers at Tulane?
Well, Tulane, we kept a lot of players from the previous regime. A lot of guys were in their last year of eligibility. I'm going to just kind of guess that with transfer, we probably have roughly half as many as we had at Troy last year. I'm going to say somewhere in 25, maybe. Some early enrollees from high school, some transfers. Um, we got a quarterback from Oregon and a wide receiver from USC, a center from Western Kentucky, probably somewhere in 2025 range. So it's not quite as drastic.
Is that because it's
Uh,
winter time and not the end of spring semester?
um, it's harder to transfer into the school. It's just their academic standards are about like Rice, probably. I've coached at Rice before. And they say that we're not going to give away degrees by allowing guys into the 1 year of eligibility. So they want to have at least 2+. So it kind of cuts down your numbers of who you can recruit for grad transfers and so forth. So I think we're going to rely more on high school guys and some of the early enrollees and the veterans who were already here from last year.
Yeah, the early enrollee thing, I learned about it in like 2009 when I was down at Wake Forest. I didn't know that down south kids, once they have these credits in high school, they could graduate right before the new year and then they could enroll in college. So do you separate those kids who could technically be in high school? Do they have their own training group?
We just go lighter. We put 135 on the bar and see their movement patterns, and they're good athletes, and I don't want to segregate them or make them feel like they're, because you never know how fast they can develop. So 18-year-old, 17-year-old, they can often surprise you. So we just put lightweight on and see if they can do it right. If not, we'll go back down to some more remedial stuff. I haven't really had to do that very much. There's a certain amount of peer pressure they get when they see the guy next to them doing
Yep.
it really well. Call everybody up. Hey, this is how I want it to look. And then these guys are good athletes. They're used to seeing things on their phone screens and responding to it. So they do learn pretty quick. We deal with some pretty intelligent players here at Tulane, and they do a really good job of seeing it, understanding it, and the most technical thing that we do is the power clean, and we do deadlifts, and we do squats deeper than they're used to, front squats, Zercher squats.
I saw it.
So there's a certain level of technicality that we do, but we're not doing a whole lot of reps, 5 or less usually in what I call a core movement. So, and this is all kind of new too. I mean, it was in the last 8 years I've been acting like this with my core movements. I used to be a big fan of German volume training, and it's a sloppy squat, but fight through it. Now I want and I seek perfection in their technique by doing lower reps with higher quality, more intensity.
Yeah, I like that. That's the tough thing is like, when you're at the high school level, there's kids in and out and the lack of consistency. I was having a discussion with some friends yesterday who coach in high school level, but also private, high level guys. And they said by far the hardest job they've had is high school. They're like the emotions of the kids. They're not, some of them are not ultra committed. Somebody posted on Twitter saying like 50%, we'll do a good job for you. 25% will probably really work. 25% don't want anything to do. And you should not really
Yeah,
give them a whole lot of attention. And all I thought to
yeah,
myself is like, that's heartbreaking. Like I want everybody on board. It's just not realistic. It's not possible, unfortunately. But they also, I'm in this like other group chat, and they were mentioning friends they have at the college sector of athletes going into colleges from like kind of like some of these big name internet coaches talking about there's a lot of actual like things lacking in those kids because the coach might be a certain style, meaning he's only into powerlifting and doesn't want to teach weightlifting, or he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
believe in lifting heavy. He's only into, sprinting. So
Mm-hmm.
these kids get to college and there's a lot to be taught. So these kids that you have that are I don't know what they would be called. They're like the kids that graduated high school early. What are they called? Like just freshmen or
No, early enrollees, yeah,
okay.
freshmen.
How are they?
Yeah.
What are you seeing in their skill? Because we are seeing a lot of high skilled strength coaches at the high school sector. So what are you seeing with these early enrollees, good or bad?
Well, I've had really good experiences with them. It'd be easy to say all these guys are going to come in and be sloppy or be unattentive, but we have a young tight end right now that, I mean, he's probably going to play in August, and 17-year-old, he's probably turns 18 during the summertime. And yes, sir, yes, coach, fundamentally sound, open-minded. I mean, I'm not sure how the protocol is of giving names of these kids over, but I mean, I've had really positive responses from them. I think they feel a little bit of intimidation by some of the guys around them. 22-year-old grown men, 23-year-old grown men who've been playing ball a long time, and I think that they kind of see that, hey, I've got to listen and learn. The pressure's on, so I'm early enrollees. I'm excited about because they're just a fresh ball of clay, and I'm the teacher, I'm the coach, and I've been entrusted to motivate and develop this young guy, and there's a lot of pressure on me to do that. So, game on, man. We got to get this guy ready to play, and the way the transfer portal is, I tell them, hey, it's time to play right now. You don't want to sit around on the sideline and chew your mouthpiece, do you, when we're playing K-State, or OU? No, you want to be in the game, right? Well, we got to get going. So I think the days of the old days of red shirting, that's hard for a young man who's been playing his whole life to have to
Yeah.
just step back for a whole year and watch. So now, the red shirting thing is out there, but the possibility of playing and contributing is really high for him.
In wrestling, if a kid redshirts, he could still wrestle 25 matches that season because he could just keep entering open tournaments. So football, you can't go and enter some sort of a football game elsewhere.
Well,
You're
they changed the rule on that, Zach.
oh
You can
dang.
play 4 game. You can play in 4 games now.
As a red shirt?
You can play. You can appear in 4 games and still maintain your red shirt.
What was their rationale behind that? Did they feel like it's safer, helps develop the kid and actually get them time on the field? What was the rationale?
Maybe the coaches were saying it's going to help with retention. Maybe they felt like the players were getting disconnected from the program by not being able to play. I'm not even exactly sure, but it's a pretty cool rule, though.
Yeah.
You can see what a kid's made out of. So, yeah, we had one of our defensive backs that transferred from Troy to Tulane, played in 4 games. We know what he's made out of, and now he has 4 more years to play if he so chooses. So it's wild, man.
It's the landscape of college sports. I mean, it's pretty wild. Let's
Yeah.
let's talk about your recent experience. You went to Winter Strong. I was actually shocked that you went. I didn't know if you had time to get away
I
starting
had
at
to
this new position.
I had to fight to make time. We had our 3 lifting groups on Friday morning. I guess it was the 8th, maybe the 9th, but February 9th. Finished up the last group, drove to the airport, or actually drove home, got a Uber got to the airport. I had to fly to Atlanta, rent a truck, drive. I showed up at Bert Soren's farm at about 10 o'clock at night. Slept in the back of a SUV. Woke up and I spent the entire Saturday doing all the festivities, the adventure race, playing guitar around a campfire. I mean, it was good. I wish I could spend the whole experience doing that, but it was a fun time. And anybody who hasn't been to that, I would encourage them to. I met some amazing people. One of the guys on my race team was on that show Alone,
Oh yeah.
Survivor show.
Wow.
And he's a world-class survivalist. Built a fire with a bow drill in about 2 minutes. Builds his own bows, his own arrows. Just remarkable people everywhere. Joe Riggio.
Joe's my buddy.
Yeah, well, he blew me away with his business sense and his overall
Yep.
his just approach to life in general. So
Awesome guy.
We connected well, and he gave me some good advice on some things. And I mean, just they have a pretty wide variety of people that I'm used to just talking to coaches, and it was a cool experience, man. You can really connect with some people there and do some fun stuff. And Bert has built quite the experience with that.
So this was their first year of, it's always been invitation. This year they did application. And so it sounds like that worked out. Well, it worked out in their favor. I bet you they were like nervous to do it, but it sounds like you liked it.
I'm not exactly sure why they did what they did. I saw a lot of the same familiar faces. I think there was an influx of youth, some younger guys. I met some younger guys who still in a special forces course. That was fun to talk to. Relating my experiences to them from 20 years ago. And it seems like it was 8 years ago and it's 20. So the race was fun. Joe and I were on the same team, and we thought we were killing it, and we didn't get in the final four.
The year before, or 2 years ago when I went, we get to the bottom of the hill and we're like, we killed it. And then they ran those heats. So like every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then I noticed the next group came down and they were like, we killed it. And the next group said it. And then I started thinking to myself, why does everybody think we were hauling ass? But then I was like, man, we were also not in the top four. What units were guys in from, SF guys? Who was there? What kind of groups? What groups were they?
There was they were all still in the qualification course, and one guy had already been assigned to 10th group up in Fort Carson.
How did they get away if they're in? They got the weekend off.
Oftentimes in the Q course, you'll get a whole Saturday and Sunday off. Wow. They probably flew in on a Friday afternoon and were able to make it happen. It just depends on your course. The guy that I was talking to was in a medic course, which takes almost a year alone of the Delta medic. So he may have had an extra spare weekend. Sometimes we would have road marches and activities on Saturdays, but sometimes we would not. So we could take a 4-day pass sometimes. So you never know what's going on with those guys right now.
What's a Delta medic? He's in Delta Force, but in the
Special Forces, the nomenclature for each guy. There's a 12-man team on a Green Beret, on a Special Forces team of Green Berets. You have 2 medics, and they're called 18 Deltas. You have 2 engineering sergeants, and they're called 18 Charlies. You have your weapons guys. They're 18 Bravos. And your communication guys that are 18 Echoes. And I was the the 18 Echo on my team, and each team has two of each, and sometimes three. Like I had three communication sergeants, me plus two, because commo was so important wherever you go. And then you have your team captain, team sergeant, the Zulu, they call him the Zulu, and then you have a warrant officer, usually deals with kind of some off the grid stuff, covert stuff. So it's a unique blend of talent, and the medics are basically like a trauma nurse. They can do a whole lot.
Right.
They carry a lot of equipment and a lot of medication. And if you ever get shot or you're in a helicopter crash and you're alive, you want an 18 Delta on you. They can do a whole lot. So
what's net like with the it's hard to say, like, we have wars going on. I don't really know who's getting deployed. I know some guys that are in SF that I thought would get deployed that have not been deployed. What did you pick up on with this kind of generation that are still going through SF qualification training versus when you were in the military post 9/11? Like, is there something different with the guys and what they're experiencing?
I don't think right now, there's guys who are doing active stuff in Africa, Syria, all across the Middle East. There are definitely troops in contact as we speak. I think the number of them is smaller than it was back during Operation Iraqi Freedom in the early 2000s, and when we had a lot of groups operating in Afghanistan. There are definitely guys out there in harm's way, but I don't think there's the sheer number that we had 20 years ago, 15 years ago. But I do know there are guys right now that, we were helping some Marines out when I was in Iraq, and we were helping them establish their communication and their antennas, and they just got there, and we were helping them out, and they were in this old abandoned schoolhouse, and there was a chalkboard on the wall. And somebody had written with the chalk on the wall, "America is not at war. The Marines are at war. America is at Starbucks."
Oh,
And it's a pretty, I think that's still true. That
yeah.
it's out of sight, out of mind. But there are definitely some guys and gals in harm's way in places that we don't really think twice about, some Middle Eastern countries in Libya or Syria or and what's going on in Ukraine. You'd be surprised to know what's going down with some of those places.
Right. It's interesting. Like when the media shifts their attention, then you stop like knowing what's happening elsewhere, and you're maybe catching little pieces on Instagram or something. I was listening to a podcast with Pat McNamara. He's always at Winter Strong.
Yeah,
So
he was there.
yep.
Yeah.
So Pat is awesome. So I'm listening to his podcast he did sometime in October. There was a big power outage in his area of North Carolina. And so he's well prepped. He said people reached out to see if he was okay. And he's like, "Do you fucking know who I am?" Like I live for this shit. Like he had
Yeah,
frozen water, 10 propane tanks. He's knows
basic
how
dude stuff.
basic dude stuff. But he mentioned something about the line at Starbucks during the power outage was like fucking, I don't know, like a block long. He said it was like a quarter-mile long. And it reminded me when he said that, my wife sent me, some Instagram post. This guy was like, "Listen," he's like, "You think World War III is going to happen?" He's like, "Think about it. We're not going to fight." He's like, "We created an app so we could get fast food delivered to us." And, we see a lot of stuff going on with the border, with this, with that. And it's scary times. Did that kind of conversation come up with anybody at Winter Strong? Was anybody talking about how they are prepping just in case? Who knows what happens?
Well, they on Friday, and I wasn't able to make it to the classes, but they had food preservation class. They had on Saturday morning they had the primitive fire building in case you don't have electricity or you don't have your matches run out, and your lighter runs out. How are you going to build a fire? How are you gonna purify water? So they touched upon it without getting too radical. They have to kind of walk a fine line with some of their clientele there. But yeah, the thing about hunting, and Bert's just huge into hunting and bow hunting, and the Montana Knife Company, and those guys are down there, and
Yep.
And the knife making, some of the world class guys on the Forged in Fire were there.
Yes.
They're amazing to watch. Some of the judges, they're there, and you're like, but yeah, I mean, it's all built around the idea of kind of the 19th century exist on your own kind of mindset, which, using a primitive bow to kill a deer and skin it yourself and process it yourself. There's a certain subset of people that are starting to open their eyes to the necessity of that.
Do you know how to skin a deer and process it?
Yeah, I know how. Yeah, one of my best friends I've known my entire life is all about that. I might not be as efficient with what's left, but I could get a good chunk of the deer, enough to feed myself for a while. I know how to gut a deer, skin a deer, hang it up, get the skin off of it. To a certain extent, process the skin if I wanted to, put salt on it, dry it out. But you get so pampered, I mean, I live in middle of Metairie, I got 500 restaurants within a mile of my house. It's so easy to get pampered. I do wonder if our country was invaded, let's say China invaded Alaska or something, how many of us would actually say, hey, I got to go get my rifle ready, or how many be like, oh, we deserve it. I mean, what would this country do,
Yeah.
But
It's and my buddy Joe, who met up with you there, Joe goes hunting, and I should have been more connected with him on this, but he's like, hey, come up to the gym on a Sunday. I'll teach you how to shoot the compound bow, and then we will go hunting. Now hunting season is over. And as strength coaches, and then me as a dad, my weekends with the kids, I make excuses, and I really need to find time for that stuff because it's important. I think initially I looked at it like it's important for peace of mind. I want to get away. I love being outside. Now I look at it as more of like a preparation for when shit hits the fan. I want it, just like we talk about confidence in your preparation for athletes. I want confidence in my preparation for life. To me, I'm where I'm certainly missing. I know Kurt Hester was at Tulane. Now he's at, where did he go? UT?
Houston, University of Houston Cougars. Yeah.
But Kurt says, he's like, man, I'm a redneck. He grew up in the bayou, he said. So he would hunt, he would catch alligators alone. He would go alone.
Yeah. Well, Kurt's his there were, he's I mean, I hate to tell you, man, but he's 60 plus,
Yep.
He grew up in a different era, a more self-reliant era, and he takes that stuff seriously. He's a hunter. He's one of those guys who, if you made a zombie apocalypse movie, Kurt would probably be one of the last guys alive. So
I wonder what he'll hunt now that he's out of Louisiana, because he grew up in Louisiana. So now he's in Texas.
He'll have to go to south, go a little bit east, west of where he's at, and go hunt pigs and deer.
Pigs, yeah.
I mean, if you go an hour west of Houston, between Houston and San Antonio, there's quite a bit of space out there. And then when you get around San Antonio, you got some of the best deer hunting in North America. So he'll be okay.
Well, I think my buddy John Wellborn was he out at Winter Strong? I can't remember if he made it this year. He didn't say.
Not sure.
So John, I don't know if he still has to do it, but when he bought his property, he had to shoot a ton of those wild boar. He said they would eat the crops, they would like dig holes. He said then they would eat each other. He's like, they're
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah, they eat your crop down to the root, and
yeah.
they tear it out.
You know, Josh Bryant, who kind of was like raised at Metroflex Gym, he said the owner of the gym, Brian Dobson, would take him like, wild pig hunting, and they would bring the pigs back to Metroflex, hang them in front, skin them, and make beef jerky and grill them up right on a grill right outside of the gym.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So every year at Winter Strong, there is a team physical challenge. It's hard, dude. So I reached out to you. I was like, damn, did you do it? Because my knee also not so hot. After I did it, I also crushed a bunch of aspirin. So I was shocked. I was honestly shocked that you did it, Rusty, because you were planning on getting your knee replaced in January last month.
April, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
April.
I got it pushed. I was going to do it in January. Then I got it pushed to April 7th. And, as long as I don't do a whole lot of deep flexion, I used to love to snow ski. Really can't do it much anymore with my current situation, but it held up until we had to run up and down stairs and jump off of a ladder. And the fitness challenge was pretty cool. If you're a firefighter and you're in your 20s, you'd have killed it. But it was climb up about a 10-foot tall ladder, touch a ribbon they had tied, and then you had to slide down the ladder. Well, it turned into the guys just jumping off the top of the ladder.
Of course.
And we were trying to win rotations, and I started jumping off too. I just sent it, and a couple of guys were laughing because they're like, "Well, it's not going to get any better," So I just kind of trashed it, and I got pretty gimpy at the end. We're trying to go for 3 rotations. You had to climb 3 flights of stairs, do some deadlifts, do a kettlebell snatch, and by the end of it, I was noticeably favoring my right leg.
Dang.
But
I worry about that stuff. I worry that I know how I could train now. I could squat, I could deadlift, I could probably go out and do some jogs. But when we did Winter Strong, we had to go over almost like obstacles that you'd see at Spartan. So you're like climbing up, and then when you get over,
Yep.
you're like jumping and landing.
And the wooden wall.
The wooden wall. So man, I'm always like I hate that little voice in the back of my head that starts creeping up, like maybe you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't jump off. It's such a SOB, that little voice in the back of my head. But looks like most people do it regardless of age. There's a wide range of ages.
Oh, we had a team we were competing against with this, and they were probably all in their 20s. And
those dirty dogs.
They got top 4, and they got 2 more rotations on the fitness challenge than we did. And they were just young and flying through it. And we had probably 4 old hats and 3 younger guys. We were planning on more strength related events, and they didn't really throw much strength related events at us. It was very hard to plan for, so he did a good job of that. And there were some young kids too, like 8-year-old. I think an 8-year-old girl completed it, and she made every shot with a 22 pistol. I think it was 30 yards. She made every shot with her pistol.
That's wild.
They gave her like a very expensive target pistol for that. The team that finished, they all got some, I think like $1,000 gift card for each person at some outdoor place. I mean, it's a big time deal, man. They put a lot of resources into it. And Bert's really big on the Boy Scouts of America used to do some pretty cool stuff, rifle shooting. And if they still do, I don't know. Or the
Right.
Cubs, but I think he's trying to fill a void with that, with the youth, and he had a lot of young kids doing that race and shooting 22 rifle. They were shooting recurve bows, before the race, teach them how to shoot, and just trying to create a generation of youth that can lead and have that independent mindset and a self-sustaining mindset.
It's amazing. His dad really, his dad grew up about 25 minutes north of where I grew up, which that area now is really, we call it the hood. It's a bad area.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's a bad area. And so, but his dad took him hunting, fishing, doing all that. So it's
yeah. Richard is a very eclectic guy. He's an old time strong man. He's a mountain man. He's got a lot going on. He's a titan of the fitness industry. He got inducted into the American Sports Hall of Fame, I guess it was a couple of years ago.
yeah, at the Arnold.
Yeah, and he killed a big old black bear and had it skinned and has a big black bear jacket. Pretty awesome. But
It
yeah,
is, yeah.
Bert got to experience a lot of that growing up, and you seen his gym with all the trophies inside it.
The
His
hunting
man cave.
trophies. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he's got like the ultimate man cave from all that. But I think everybody in a lot of the same kind of people, female alpha, male alpha that wants
Mm-hmm.
to hunt and get fresh meat and be independent and be outside and experience the outdoors and the wonders of the mountains. And I grew up. My dad was a bass fisherman, and he was in a bass. It's called the Tri-County Bass Club back then. Very avid competitive bass fisherman, and I did that with him I didn't even run track for a couple of years in high school because I wanted to fish bass tournaments. That was my big calling back when, to go outside and do stuff and get up at 3 a.m. and drive 2 hours and offload into a lake with nobody else on it.
Oh,
And then
I love it.
yeah, it was remarkable times. It was heaven on earth for me at that point. So
What was that area again, Rusty? Where I forget where
around Fort Worth, Texas. There's a
Oh yeah,
lot of
Texas.
lakes,
Yes.
North Texas,
Yep.
and we drove all over. We drove all over Texas, and I was able to meet some of his friends that were. A lot of them were Korean War, World War II veterans, Vietnam War veterans, and very rugged men.
Yes.
There was a man named Gene Bills my dad was friends with for many decades, who was in the Third Army with General Patton.
Oh wow.
And when they did that big movement of 100 miles in 48 hours with the Third Army, Gene was involved in that and went and fought in Bastogne and was just a gritty old fella, And I got paired with him on a team tournament one time. I was 12 years old, and I got paired with him. And you with me?
Yeah, I
Can
got you.
you?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, he before we get in the boat, he goes, Rusty, it's about 35 degrees. I was like, yes, sir. He goes, I don't want to hear one complaint or one whine out of you. I'm like, not at all, no, sir. He's like, big boy, we're gonna be a big boy. I'm like, yes, sir, yes, sir. I'm like, don't complain about anything.
There's somebody posted a video recently of football players in Texas, like quick clips of them getting interviewed after high school games. And it's yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, just good mannered kids.
Mm-hmm.
And today I
Bring
said
it.
to kids, I had to kick a kid out of the weight room yesterday. Not kick him out, I had to remove him near the end. And I spoke to him today. I said, listen, man, I don't ever want to have to have you leave. I said, but the worst thing is you don't even say sorry. You guys leave and you don't say sorry. You don't take responsibility and say, sir, that won't happen again. Coach, that won't happen again. And it's kind of heartbreaking, man. I tell my son, listen, I don't care if your coach has you doing something that maybe you heard me say is, whatever, baseball players shouldn't run 5K. If he tells you to run a 5K, you go fucking run. You're in high school. You could
Yeah.
you could run. I just
Yes,
yeah,
coach.
is it the best thing to do? No. But sometimes you have to do things that are not like this perfect they're not this perfect, how do you say, they're not scientifically perfect or scientifically organized for your sport. And I look back, we were talking about kind of the training, getting the technique real dialed in. I really look back to those early 2000s of training athletes out of my garage. We got those guys so damn strong. Technique was proper, but training was imperfect. Volume was high, intensity was high, just a lot of work. And I remember a football player would lift at school, go home, have a protein shake, lift with me in the garage. And then twice, 3 days a week in the spring, him and the other football guys played street basketball. They went to the park, and that's like 3 workouts a day, 3 days a week, and nobody was overtraining or run down or needed all this stuff. And, I'm trying to get some of that back today. Today, when I had football train, the football coach trains the guys twice a week. And then I train them on the third day. He's like, I just want them to compete. He's like, program however you want, but we need to learn to compete. So sometimes it's tire flip competitions. Other times it's team sled relays. Other times we did arm wrestling. That was good. Today we did medicine ball wrestling. I saw, I think Kurt Hester or somebody else posted it on Twitter, where there's the med ball and you're trying to rip it out. And I was like, man, that builds, forget about throwing a medicine ball. Like they started wrestling, and I told them you're going to get 2 matches. Okay. I think I saw guys wrestling nonstop. I saw guys going, and I was like, man, this is great. We're building competitiveness. Another change we made was I love the conjugate method, Rusty, for switching up exercises, but I found I switched too much, and we couldn't really get really strong on things, meaning trap bar deadlift 2 weeks. I don't know, back squat 2 to 3 weeks, front squat 2 to 3 weeks, Zercher squat 2 to 3 weeks. I'm doing less variety at the high school level. Have you lessened variety through the years, or what has been a major, not even a major change, but something that you're taking note of that maybe this kind of a going back to basics type feel?
I'm gonna use a term that might have a negative connotation, but I believe in programmed redundancy to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is, like, we're in our 6 weeks right now. We've been doing the same exercises with different rep schemes, and after 6 weeks, we're going to start doing something else. We're gonna go into spring ball, and we are still going to back squat, but we're going to back squat with our Tendo units, and we haven't been using Tendo or velocity based training. So that opens up an entire different spectrum. They've been lifting for weight and training against heavy weight. Well, now they're going to be looking at their speed, 0.6 meters per second, for instance. So we still squat. Our deadlift is going to turn into, we're going to do a block of just heavy power shrug pulls, and they got to get into it at triple extension. So
from the floor or from blocks?
From the floor.
Nice.
We do have blocks, so that's a good option for us. We didn't have blocks at Troy. We're always going to do a variety of the same movement of the power clean. Well, if you're not going to power clean, we're going to pull without catching it. But I do want to catch once a week. So what we're going to do, we're going to teach the pocket clean. the high hip position. We've been going from right above the kneecap for 6 weeks. Well, we're going to like Coach Gillespie came and taught us. We're going to shrug and squeeze your shoulder blades together, put the bar in your hip pocket, take away basically all the momentum of the shrug, and now it's all in your hips. Okay, so we're going to do a pocket clean. Well, why are we doing a pocket clean? I want our players to understand how much they can move with their hips. Well, then you're going to get it. Then we're going to go back to a full hang clean with adding the shrug, while we're also doing heavy shrugs. So you're building that confidence in your second pull.
You're building the back. You're really building the posterior chain, kind of like I told you earlier. The too much. People are afraid of that. I love hearing what you're saying. You're doing so you would do a clean and then shrugs later in the same session.
Oh yeah, and we're going to do a double overhand shrug from about knee height, working on your grip, and it's going to be maybe 5 heavy reps.
Nice.
So I want to do 5 reps. What can I do? And we call it a pause shrug. So they're going to 1,001, 1,002. How much can you hold in your hands? The way football's rules have gravitated, you don't strike with your head. You don't strike with your shoulders very much. A lot of it is hand contact and grip. So, and I'm not trying to brag or sound cocky or anything, but this past season at my previous stop, we went 11-3, and we went 12-2 the year before that. And in the 2023 season, out of about 44 players in our 2 deep, we only had 2 players miss a game due to injury.
What were the injuries?
One was a ACL. He was trying to contain a quarterback and jumped, lost his balance, and his knee rotated inward on him, which you can call it a non-contact, but it was just he was moving very fast laterally and jumped and tried to rotate. The other one was a nerve issue in one of our players' necks, and he missed 1 game and came back. So the most common injuries you're going to get playing football is the ankle sprain, a variety of ankle sprains. Your next most common injury is anything with the shoulder, ACs, to get more severe, labrum. Various levels of an AC, 1, 2, 3, So we attack those areas, and we're doing shrugs and we're doing our pull-ups. Well, if we're not going all the way down on a pull-up or any kind of heavy pull down, you're not training the entire shoulder girdle, the entire socket. So we try to educate our players on why we're doing it. Why do you even bench press? What's your answer to that, Zach? Why do you bench press?
I think I'll steal it from my buddy John Welborn. He talks about the ability to punch your hands through somebody. Also, as much as people say, like in wrestling, it's not functional. When wrestlers are pummeling, you may not be going straight, but you are punching through. But also, going back to our earlier part of the conversation, it's a confidence builder. I mean, that is such an advantage to kids, but I want athletes to have that punching power, upper body pressing power. It strengthens not just the chest, but the shoulders, the elbows. I mean, I even think a lot, you're identifying your injuries. I saw injuries this year, at the high school level, girls with broken wrists, arms, because they fall. So I tell them, how do you get up when you fall? You have to do a push-up. Well, you got to have strong pressing muscles, power pressing.
So how I sell it is much the same way, but we have to be able to separate from your opponent, and you have to actually absorb the force of the opponent. So you produce force, you absorb force. That's why we do the pauses. That's why we do the single arm dumbbells.
I love all
single arm with the pause, hold 1 up 1, hold 1 up. 1 up or 1 down.
Yep.
And you try to relate every motion to football. Why do we power clean? We power clean to produce force and to absorb force. And when you're doing a trap bar shrug pull or a trap bar jump, you're producing force, but where are you absorbing force? You're not doing it through the shoulder, and there's a place for it, but we spend more time doing power cleans and hang cleans. So, why are our linemen doing heavy reverse hypers with a strap around their ankles? Strong glutes, strong low backs, because they're getting axial loaded every time they block somebody, and that force is going from their neck through their lumbar vertebrae. So we do squat, we do load up their spine on purpose, and then we diminish it in season and use a lot of that velocity based training. So I've been asked, why do you deadlift? Well, if you're going to power clean and you want to power clean 400 pounds, which some of our linemen want to, why wouldn't you want to deadlift 500 or 600 pounds? You're going to make it. You're virtually in the same position, so that's why we deadlift.
Do you
So
know Jeremy Hartman? He was
heard the name.
powerlifting coach, strength coach. So I was speaking with him, and Mark Garrett is a strength coach at a high school, Crown Point, Indiana, like does tons of weightlifting. And we were talking about, I often, or at least at the high school, I teach the hang power clean. At the underground, smaller groups, all these advantages I have. I teach cleans from the floor, from the hang. But they told me, they're like, if whenever we get away from cleans from the floor, like they've described it as, you get a soft back. Your back needs to be strong, and you can't be afraid to lift heavy. So, I love these reminders. It's a reminder of, yeah, man, let's get strong. There's been so much. Actually, that was going to be the title of my talk at the NSCA State Clinic, but they declined it because I spoke like a year and a half ago. But the title was "Stop Demonizing Strength."
Yeah.
I was like, it must have offended somebody, but that's where I think we're at, Rusty, is there's so much talk about velocity and speed. The smartest people, like what you're doing, is you do strength work, but you also implement the velocity to make sure the guys are not going heavy, slow, but you know how to blend it. Like some people, if they heard you say, oh, deadlift 500 pounds, that's actually not that heavy for a guy who's 300 pounds. It's not.
No, they should be able to pull twice their body weight. And there's high school power. There's laughing. Man, I do 700. So to be fast for a 3.5 hour football game, you have to be strong. Now you can take an athlete and make them fast and do a lot of the combine training, which we will do at some point, usually around June. But if you don't have a strong strength base, you're going to have soft tissue recurrent injuries due to that. So, you've only got a certain amount of max effort sprints in you. The West Side mentality of how many times how many 1,000 pound squats does somebody have left in them? So I try to undulate the amount of times these guys are reaching that 100% sprint, and the only way to get faster is to sprint 100%. But that does put a certain level of strain on your hamstrings and your joints. So we undulate the distance and the amount of time they do that. I showed a video to our team today of Kamani Vidal, who was the second leading rusher in NCAA this past year. And for 11 weeks, he was the leading rusher. He also led the nation in yards after contact at the running back position. So Kamani is 5'7 3/4, 215 pounds.
Jeez.
His grandfather was Hank Aaron.
Oh.
Yeah. and he could squat 600. He deadlifted 585. He could have done more, but we was like, "You're good." Power clean 345,
He was
and he
at
benched
Troy.
three. Yeah, he benched 365, and that was a very easy, bench for him.
5'7",
And
215. Sounds like a
and
fullback, like a fullback.
well, we kind of made a decision that he could be 208, 205. Would he be faster? Yeah. Would he have the ability to run through contact the same? No. And the more contact you get, if you're taking the shots, the more you increase your chance of injury. So I wanted to make him the hammer and not the nail. And that was kind of the idea that we talked with him about. I was like, where do you feel the most powerful at, Kamani? And around 215. And he was the heavy hitter in high school too, at Marietta, Georgia. So we let him ride out. Would he have been a little faster at 205? Yeah. Would he have increased his chances of getting injured? I don't know. But I do know he never missed a game due to injury in 3 seasons.
Body armor. What was
Exactly.
what helped him keep that 8 to 10 pounds? Because that is a difference maker for kids. I feel like, especially at the high school level, although a friend in the NFL told me some of the skill guys don't want to squat because they feel better weighing 175 instead of 180. They were like telling him they're afraid to
Well,
gain the weight.
I mean, there is a healthy obsession with speed, and I understand that speed kills, and everybody's obsessed with that. But the field is only 100 yards long, 53 yards wide, and you can only run as fast effectively as you can stop and slow down. The game is huge in my mind on acceleration and deceleration. And if you can't control that by putting on the brakes, then would I rather have a Kamani Vidal that could run a 4.50 and had the success that he had, or run a 4.42 and not be able to control his speed and not be quite as shifty as he was? You could watch his highlights. He had the ability to make guys miss, wiggle, and then run over guys. So you have to sacrifice speed for health sometimes, I think. I mean, how many effective 100-meter dash sprinters out there can get on a football field and understand how to change directions and slow down and be effective on the field? They can cover ground, but can you stop and run a good route?
Yeah, the ability to change
I mean,
direction.
So my job is to make players stronger and faster, and that will always be the job of us, is to make guys faster.
What
But
about
there has to be
Rusty?
a level of control.
Yeah, no doubt. So what was there, some nutrition changes, or was it the training that kept his weight at that 215 rather than 207, 205?
Oh, he just had a consistent eating pattern of high protein, and we gave him probably 2 or 3 core powers a day. He had discernible abs up top. Didn't have quite a 6-pack, but he had a 4-pack. I'm sure for his combine training, when I talked to him before he made his combine selection where he was going to train, I said, "Hey, you should be 207 on pro day and run a 4.4 anything, and you'll be great."
Yeah.
So let's kind of like take a race car, take the seats out, take the gas tank and minimize the size of the gas tank, take the floorboards out, just diminish the size, run really fast, and which he has the capability of doing. And then when the season starts and you got to build that body, I'm gonna get back to your 215.
Yeah. The little trick out there that I was just thinking about, because we have some kids on the football team who need that extra weight. When I competed in bodybuilding, my training partner had this crazy metabolism. Like, he had a Christmas tree in his lower back in the off season. So our nutritionist, I the way I explain to people is, we trained at a gym that was like the West Side Barbell of bodybuilding. So there was a lot of these guys had science, but they also had kind of that old school knowledge. So the guy that was doing nutrition for the bodybuilders there had him do double his carbohydrate serving the last 2 meals of the night. So if he had like a bowl of rice, 2 bowls of rice, and then so double. And I forgot about that. You know why I probably forgot about it is because most of the struggle today is kids who lack muscle and carry too much fat. They're just not eating enough protein. It's so much
too much
sugar, processed food,
Yeah.
everything that's like in a wrapper. So but for guys like him, that might be, here, at the Division I level, you're dealing with, I look at when I was at Rutgers and Lehigh, and training those guys was just so much easier than training high school kids, and training at the underground is much easier than training at a public school. Different kids. So the high school is all about, can there be a culture built in the weight room, and then with each sport, and then like across the athletic program, this like high standard that everybody's a part of. So it's been a good challenge that I have a lot of ups and downs with it, but I keep today was a really good day at the school. So it was good.
As far as
yeah.
Go ahead.
What's your schedule looking like, Rusty, with I'm sure people listening will be like, the college football schedule is so hectic. What does your schedule look like? Is it different than Troy schedule?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Our athletes have class starting around 12:30. So we have a 8 o'clock. Well, let's go from Monday. We have a 5:50 a.m. We have a 10-minute early rule. So 5:50, we have our skill speed group. We do our speed school. At 6:50, the linemen come up. Linemen do a little bit shorter distances, but it's speed school for linemen. It's all based around acceleration. Tuesday, and then we have an 8 o'clock lift on Monday, a 9:30 lift, and a 10:45. The 8 o'clock lift is all our skill positions. The 9:30 is all our mid skill linebackers, quarterbacks, running backs, pass rush specialists, defensive ends, and then the last group of 10:45 till noon is our linemen, O-line, D-line. And that stays consistent Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Those lifting times don't change. And we only run on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We just passed on Wednesday morning, yesterday morning, we just passed our Gauntlet Agility Challenge, which I learned from Jeff Munkin at Army West Point. I put a different twist on it. Made some more time standards on it, and kind of made the teams a little bit smaller. But he got it from Paul Johnson, the old coach at Navy, who got into the College Hall of Fame this year. He coached at Georgia Tech for a long time. Very discipline based, attention to detail, focus, effort, execution, communication. Every intangible you want in a football team, the Gauntlet will expose or promote. And it took them 6 tries to pass it. We passed it yesterday.
What is
now we're going to
give us like a little rundown.
It's 6 agility stations. You take six stations, 2 teams at each station, players competing against each other based on skill set. 2 wideouts going against each other, 2 corners, 2 D linemen, whatever. And the first station is at the pop-up dummies like the defensive linemen use. They got to do a pop-up weave. They got to run around and come back. And when they come back, the next group has to be ready to go in a 2-point stance. If not, they have 3 up downs. That they have to go the right way. They have to finish through with max effort. That's the first station. Then they go to the NFL L drill, 5 and back, around the cone, figure 8 and back, the standard L drill you see in combines. They go from there They have to sprint to the next station, a dead sprint to the next station. If anybody lags behind, they got to get sent back. They get a 1 minute penalty, a penalty station. They got to go back and redo the station for 1 minute. The next station is a sled push 10 yards and back. Any kind of sled. We had a prowler. They got to push it down and back. Next station is a 5-10-5, just your standard short agility race. They cannot post their inside hand. They got to touch their right, touch left. They can't touch the inside hand. Then they go to an old school agile dummy bag race, running through agile dummies, 2 lines of 6 agile dummies. And it's back pedal sprint. You know, there's only a certain amount of things you can do with agile dummies. And then the last station is there's 8 milk crates, and they're shaped like a spoke of a bicycle tire, if you had a BMX bike with 3 spokes on it.
Yes.
And there's a middle basket, and there's 3 on the perimeter, and they're 4 yards apart. And there's 3 mini soccer balls, about a little bigger than a softball. And they got to shuttle the balls to the crates, and they got to sprint to finish. And they got to make sure the ball gets in the crate. And there's a little bit of thinking going on, right and left, and they got to put the ball in, and they're excited, and the ball wants to bounce out. There's got to be a certain level of control. It's not just a blind race. There's control. You got to decelerate, put the ball in. So there's a lot of acceleration, deceleration, and there's a variety. There's a whole list of errors you can make. Kind of like there's a lot of rules, like in a football game. There's a lot of rules, and they have 1 hour to go through it 3 times, and they get really tired with the mistakes and having to do up downs. Every mistake is 3 up downs. So I think the first week we had 44 errors in the first.
So the whole team, or the group does the up down?
That one group has to do those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the guys have them do somewhere around 100 up downs while they're doing, but it's like I tell them it's like a choose your own destiny book. You can choose to handle however you want to. If your group doesn't make mistakes, you communicate, you finish, you were ready, you won't do up downs. If you're lazy and got bad body posture, you got to stand in a straight line, while you're waiting to go. If you bend over, Nick bent over, we got 3.
Those details
he wasn't
matter.
Ready. We got 3. Absolutely, they do.
And
I'm going to hear.
It's inspired. I think it inspires guys. It has a carryover to their sport and life.
Yeah. And I'm going to hear someone say, bending over is the most efficient way to breathe. And you're right.
I always hear that shit.
It is. But it's also showing everybody you're tired.
That
you need to do that.
Rusty, we're in, right? The world gets offended when the wind blows the wrong way. And then in strength and conditioning, now everybody has an answer for why you can do something that whatever 5, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't agree with. Look, I have a buddy that, former Navy SEAL, he ran us through like a 12-hour challenge. His thing was like, if your hands touched your hips, like you're tired, that's it. We're doing burpees. But there's a lot to be said about showing fatigue. All right, it's better to rest, this, that. I mean, the level of athleticism is such freakish levels now that, I don't know what is right or wrong anymore, but I don't think it's a bad thing to demonstrate grit and toughness, and resilience. But people talk like it's bad. Now, I don't think the football teams need to go and train like Navy SEALs, but guess what? When they do it one time, it could actually have a life-changing impact on them.
You read my article, right, about your players are not Navy SEALs?
I may have a while ago. Where was it written?
2017, I was at Texas Tech, and I wrote an article.
You told me
and
that
it was
on Elite.
Where did it go?
Where did it go?
It's just on. You can Google it. It's on. It was on an Australian
okay.
site with Kevin Toonan, and it's it's been out there for a while, but it's simply called "Your Players Are Not Navy SEALs," and you ought to read it and let me know what you think.
I feel like you
But
talked about it and I read it. I'll pull it up.
yeah,
I'll, you
yeah,
know, I'll
you
link,
may have
I'll
yeah.
link it up. What was the gist? Or how about this? You wrote it in 2017. Any different? Do you view the article differently now, 7 years later?
No, I don't believe that you should bring in, and I don't care who I piss off about this. I don't believe you can bring in a cadre of guys for 24 or 48 hours, tax a bunch of kids' nervous systems, leave them, and expect that to last very long. You know, they're gonna remember it, but
Yes.
I think if you're gonna institute that mindset and that level of discipline, it has to be a year-round thing, because young men, okay, as soon as you take your thumb off of them, they're going to revert back to where they were when they were 13 years old. Behavioral patterns are set pretty early, and
So
if they when they feel like the pressure's off, they're going to escape to the four winds. So
so
I try to keep that pressure on.
why do schools bring in guest speakers, lecturers of all types? Like they'll bring in Simon Sinek to talk about like finding your why. They might bring in a former Navy SEAL to just speak to athletes, or
Well,
yeah,
if they do that, I think it should fit within their program of like Coach Summerall has a attitude, toughness, discipline, love. Those are his core values: attitude, toughness, discipline, and love. And he'll bring in people to talk about attitude. We had a NFL scout who's been scouting for over 20 years, director of scouting. I believe he was at the Philadelphia Eagles, and we were talking about that was the topic. And we sat in our football team room and Zoom called this guy, and he showed up on screen and said, "Hey, your attitude," and he enforced that core value.
mm-hmm.
And then with toughness, he'd bring in somebody, talk about toughness. He would let me talk about toughness, discipline. So as long as it is a consistent message that is fortified within your core value system, I think it's a great idea. But if you're bringing in guys just kind of, off because you think they have a cool story, I'm just not sure how much impact it's going to have to last.
I love
You
it.
know,
Yeah, the core
um,
values and that it has to be
and
connected.
love to Coach Summerall is not a feeling. It's not, based around like a romantic thing. It's based around the entire concept of sacrifice. Like, I'm not gonna go to the club tonight and get hammered because it's in season. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want someone to take a picture of me being drunk. Post it on Instagram of me going out. I'm going to sacrifice because I love this team. I love my teammates. So that's the idea. That's his core value system. And maybe it sounds cliche, but I really do think with young men, you have to keep it simple and reinforce the same thing over and over again. And he and I do that really well. I reinforce strength matters, man. If you're stronger than your opponent, if you're a nose tackle and that center, you clean more than he does and you squat more than he does and you deadlift more, you're going to feel that. Every snap, you're going to say, "Hey, I got an advantage over you." So I am always pounding the virtues of strength and power and acceleration, and the importance of self-confidence, man. It's paramount.
Love it. My bro, we're going to shut it down here. Rusty Whitt, Tulane Strength and Conditioning. Pretty damn
Roll
cool.
wave.
Yeah. What's the furthest north you'll be traveling? What's the conference you guys are in?
Oh, the American. So it's a great question. I just know the first three games. We play Southeastern here. We play Kansas State here. We go to OU in Norman. Man, I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
It's all been a whirlwind, but it's a big conference with a lot of good teams in it. There's going to be a lot of speed, a lot of tempo, a lot of high flying offenses. So we got a lot of work to do, and it's a good conference, man. I will text you our schedule.
Good. Everybody out there listening, I will, if you're following and go to the Zach Evanish blog, I'm going to link up the article Rusty spoke about. Rusty is on Instagram. You just look up Rusty Whitt, and he posts the training footage of his teams. It's awesome. You could see the deadlifts, the cleans, the pause bench, the pocket clean. You could see training that's awesome. Last time we chatted was near the end of the season, and guys were lifting heavy and fast. Technique was on point, was impressive. So thanks to everybody for watching, for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Keep leaving 5-star reviews. That helps support the show. Give Rusty a follow. And Rusty, any final words before we shut it down?
No, man, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
My brother. All right, team. We'll talk to you next time.